Hello, everyone. Sarah here. I wanted to share with you insight into a one-to-one session that I just had with a client. I had a client who booked in after understanding that their relationship issues and their relationship choices in partners had to do with their upbringing, with their childhood, with unresolved inner wounds from their past that they hadn't yet healed, ones that they had done a lot of work around, but there was still more there. And what came up, what was the biggest thing, was this client's just all of this stemmed, the very core and root of it was from being ignored, was from being ignored as a child. I don't know if you want to call that an ignored wound, whatever you want to call it. When we do one-to-one work together, we get to the very core, we get to the very root of what is causing everything else. So you may notice anxiety in relationships. You may notice emotional eating. This client particularly would drink a lot, particularly around relationship issues or conversations that didn't go his way. And he wanted to alleviate his drinking as much as he was, just have a drink or two like a normal person, wanted to be able to have a conversation without it always becoming and turning it into an argument, wanted to be able to work through things with the person that he was in a relationship with and not always blow up, not always explode, and just didn't understand why he always did. And it really got down to this core wound that he felt had been there for a long time, that caused anxiety, that caused the arguments, because he understood that this is what he created to try and protect himself, to defend himself, was this ability to fight back, was to argue, was to stand his ground. So he had no issue using his voice. A lot of people suppress and turn off their voice. They shut it down and they just, quite frankly, stop using it in arguments or in relationships. They don't engage in arguments. They become a doormat and they just get walked all over. And then they hate that. And oftentimes I've actually worked with clients in the past where they've developed a cough for that. Their cough will begin to speak for them. That will be their voice. And instead of being able to actually get words out, they can only get a sound out and it's a cough. But that becomes a protective and defense mechanism, a coping mechanism that can excuse them from the conversation, excuse them from the uncomfortable energy that's in the room, because they've got to go to the restroom or they got to go get a tissue or a towel or something to cough in, or need to step outside and get a fresh of breath air. They don't know what's going on, but they just suddenly can't speak. And other people seem to go the other end of the pendulum. They will find that they had to do that, were forced to do that for so long in their early upbringing and childhood experiences, that now when they're triggered, it's volcanic rage and anger. And they're realizing that that is also damaging and impacting their relationships and keeping them from being able to have any healthy relationships and good relationships. They find that they attract good people, like this client, very, very good people, and they mess it up. They sabotage the relationship and they understand that it's them. And he said, I understand that it's me. I'm the one that starts the arguments and I don't get it. I have run off so many good women, so many potential wives, and his goal is to get married. And when we really got to the very core and root of it, it was the wound of being ignored as a child. He was ignored by his parents. Dad was also an alcoholic and drank too much, so he grew up being modeled, turned to alcohol. And now that he's no longer a child, he can buy it. You can go to any store and you can purchase alcohol. When you're triggered, when you're anxious, when you're stressed, when you just need to chill, have a cold one. You said, oh my God, that's what my dad used to say, just have a cold one. And he used to make me go get him beers. Go get me one. Go get me a cold one, son, is what he would say. And now he gets himself a cold one, son. And even hearing that of the bottle, the can opening, was a connection to a father that he never had a connection with. The sound, the feeling of the cold can in his hand, his subconscious mind reminded him, this is a connection to your father. Your father's ignoring you. All he cares about is drinking. He sits you in front of the TV, and when you try to tell him about your day or what's going on in your life, yeah. Go get me a cold one, son. was the phrase. When we got to the very core and very root of what's going on and why he now, every single day, gets himself multiple cold ones, son, because the feeling of the cold can in his hand is that same feeling that he had when he was serving his father, when he was actually receiving attention from his father. And his father would sometimes say thank you in this midst of ignoring him, but he felt this connection to the coldness of the can, to that to the sound of the bottle opening, all kinds of subconscious connections to a father that he didn't have a connection to. And when you get to the very core and root of it, it's things like this. It's the sound, it's the feeling, it's the experiences, these connections to things that you now want to be disconnected from. He's an adult now, sabotaging and ruining really good potential relationships. And there were subconscious connections to drinking, to the coldness of the can, to go get me a cold one, son, to even drinking the same kind of beer that his father drank when he was younger. Even though he hates it, he doesn't like the flavor, he doesn't like the taste, but I don't know. It's what I always seem to go to. That's what he said. And getting to the very core and root of it, realized it's when I get triggered from being ignored. When I feel like someone's not paying attention to me, brushing me off, not listening to me, not really hearing me, that I increase the volume of my voice to be heard, to make sure that I'm heard. Because that's another thing that I felt that I never was. I was never heard. I was seen, but I was never heard. And now in relationships, to feel heard, I started arguments, because in arguments, it's okay to yell. It's okay to get my point across. By increasing the volume of my voice and yelling. And that ruins really good relationships. And it's when I feel that I'm ignored, that I'm not being listened to, I'm not being heard, I'm not being understood. So there was all kinds of subconscious connections made to this. And the realization that raising the voice is actually what pushes people away, what pushes these good women away. And in fact, if they're there and they're having a conversation, not being ignored. But it was really healing that inner core wound. The belief he was constantly being ignored the way that he was when he was ignored growing up. So that was deeply rooted in his experience of childhood, which led to so many other issues. And if you watched my free masterclass, if you haven't yet, I invite you to it, but realized, wow, I've got this stuffer, bottler. I stuff my feelings, my emotions, drown them out, numb them out with alcohol, which means that becomes part of the P me. I procrastinate and I put things off that I need to do, put off conversations I need to have. Before I have a cold one, we ain't talking about anything, because man, what a day it was. And even during the day, he realized, my God, even when I'm at work, when someone doesn't respond to an email right away, I feel ignored. When someone doesn't immediately text me back and I don't see the little bubbles popping up, I feel ignored. Like, and that triggers me. And you realize I am triggered all the time. I'm triggered when I send an email and I don't get a reply back. I'm triggered when I get an automatic reply that says out of the office, won't be back until Monday. If I send an email on a Thursday or Friday, trigger, trigger, trigger. I feel like I'm being ignored. If the person takes all day to get back to me, even though in their signature and their message it says I'll respond within 24 hours, if it's been 6, I lose it. There I go, increasing the volume of my voice again, yelling. So many connections to being ignored. This trigger of being ignored, its roots ran deep. And that was the very core and the very root of what was going on within him that led to all of these other things. The reasons why other people that he worked with said he wasn't the nicest or easiest person to work with. The reason why he'd been called in to have a chat with the boss several times. He was an incredibly hard worker, very determined worker, very focused worker, very, very good at his job. but lacked people skills. This connection to being ignored spread into every area of his life. He didn't lack people skills. He lacked healing skills. And we got to the very core, the very root of that very quickly. Made the connection. And from that, it was like, duh. Whoa. Whoa. It's usually the response that I hear, and it's such a powerful one, especially after a one-to-one session. Whoa. Whoa. Oh my God. There it is. The wound from being ignored came from all the way back there. And maybe it's been 20 years or 30 years or even more. But that doesn't magically go away. It stays, and it impacts and it infiltrates every area of your life. It's incredible when you really connect with that part of you, what's really going on. It's not that you didn't text me back. Well, good, because you were driving and you were driving safely, and there was some traffic on the way home, and it's not safe to text and drive, but you didn't reply back, and I got triggered. And now when he would say, when she would walk through the door, I would just lose it on her instead of having any kind of like, hey babe, how was your day? It was an explosion, an argument. Why are you late? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you let me know? Here I am. I'm just supposed to sit around and wait for you while you just take your sweet time. The ruining of relationships, the closeness to losing jobs, full careers. It wasn't the first job that he was told that at, and it all had to do with that inner wound of being ignored. And there was an incredible plot twist. Another realization was, wow, this is actually what keeps me going. If I didn't have this trigger of being ignored, I wouldn't care. And when we dove into that even more, it's actually what gave him energy and motivation, what allowed him to get over it. When one relationship that he would ruin would end, whatever, move on, find another one. It's what kept his heart protected, this not caring about being ignored story, anyway, he had for quite some time. We all care when we're ignored. Look at the significance of being ignored and the ways that it impacted his life. For years, for decades after that, we all care when we're ignored. Because being ignored means that we're not worthy of being heard, we're not worthy of being seen, we're not worthy of being connected to those that we love, our parents, our caregivers, our partners, our colleagues. And in that, you feel disconnection. You feel hurt and you feel pain. But he said, wow, that was like the very thing that kept me motivated and going, and it also kept me from getting too close to those women that I was in relationships with, because I just thought, well, it's gonna end. And when it ends, I don't want to get my heart broken. So I would just ignore them. When they would reach back out to me after we ended things, I would ignore them, all in an effort to not feel more pain. And that gave me this sense of power of being alive, this sense of control when I could ignore them. And then the processing of the grief of how bad he felt because he had hurt people he actually cared about. You see, there's so many layers to things. There's so many connections to things. And when you get to the very core and the very root of it, using the power of your unconscious mind, everything changes. Everything. He still has a drink every now and then, but not the way he used to, and he doesn't drink that god-awful beer anymore, he said. in a wonderful relationship with someone that it's okay if she doesn't text right away. He gets it. She's busy. That's what he loves about her. That's absolutely what he loves about her. That's what he loved about those in the past he was in a relationship with as well, but he kind of ruined those, but not anymore. Happy to say that things are going incredibly well at work, making wonderful connections with people, moved up in position. Everything changes just so fast, like lightning fast. It's like you just collapse time when you get to the very core and root of it immediately and quickly, and you don't hem and haw or try and figure out what it is. And for him, I don't even know if that's a word, ignoring wound. That's what you said. That's what it was. It was this wound from being ignored, this wound from being pushed aside. And now I see how every time I felt like I was pushed aside, I was actually triggered. And he said, it's funny now. I don't yell anymore. Like I can't even stand when other people yell now. It's like, stop yelling. You really need to do that. And then he laughs and says, I used to do that. Wow, so much has changed. So if you're experiencing ignoring wounds or all of those things, the anger, the rage, that this disappointment and sabotaging good relationships and sabotaging your health, you find that you're drinking too much or whatever it is, you're just all over the place and you don't understand and can't figure out why, but you know you're ready to get to the very core and the very root of what it is for you. The ignoring wound was what it was for him, and that's what he described it as. And you may feel and experience the same signs, the same symptoms of that, but the experiences that you had that led to you feeling those things are unique to you. And only when you get to the core and root of what it is for you, when your subconscious mind makes those connections, will you be free. So you can sit here and you can watch a video like this and you can listen to a story like this. And some of it may land for you. You may think, yeah, oh my gosh, I do those things too. I don't know how to break free from it though. I don't know how to stop doing that. I don't know how to stop ruining good relationships. I don't know how to stop getting triggered when I don't get a response in the time that I expect a reply. When I see the little bubbles and then they go away, should be triggered by that. Right, I know, but I am. And when you realize that that's what I'm experiencing, that's what I'm going through too, and you're ready to change it, you're ready to change you, you're ready to heal those inner wounds, I would love to connect with you. That is what I do. I love it. 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 We can work one-to-one together. We can work through the program, transforming past pain to present power, depending on where you're at, what you're looking for, and how quickly you want results. Many options available. And I wanted to share this video and this client's story of healing the ignoring wound, if that's a thing. It was for him, and it may be for you too. And if you feel like it is, I'd love to connect with you. All right, guys, sending you much love, and I'll see you soon.